Hi and welcome back to my channel. So today I was going through this kind of old post, this is from February, discussing the new features that are potentially coming in React 19. Now there are a ton of new things like the compiler, the new document metadata tags, the asset loading. That is just a bunch of stuff. However, I wanted to kind of pick the ones that are the most practical and the things that we developers will probably use the most, like directly. And I found really interesting the actions architecture. So in React 19, you will have something like this. So actions will allow you to pass a function to the form document element. These can be client-side actions, or if your framework supports server-side actions, then it can be a server-side action. And what's really cool about this is that React will handle the lifecycle of the data submission for you. You can intercept this process using the useFormStatus or the useFormState hooks, and then display loading animations or display any data that you got back from your action. If you already used Remix, some of this might sound familiar to you because Remix already exposes similar helpers to listen to the form submission state or grab data that you submitted through your form. I recently shared a tweet about this, and I'm curious, what do you think how the new React version is going to play together with some of these Remix features? By now you're probably asking, okay, how can I try this on my machine? Well, fortunately, you can use a service called StackBlitz that I literally discovered yesterday, and they have all these virtual machines here. And from popular, you can select something like React TypeScript. So if you click this, you get a machine with access to the terminal where you can do npm install, npm run dev, stuff like that. So what you get here is a React application run by Vite. If you look at package.json, this version is 18.2.0. So to install this experimental version of React, first you have to go to npmjs.com, type in the search React, and then come here to versions. In versions you will see, well, all the versions of React, and you are looking for the ones that are tagged as Canary, and you should pick one of these versions. So don't search for React 19, these are all tagged as 18 something. Also, don't pick something that was just released. So I had issues in StackBlitz by trying to install React versions that were released today. So pick something from 2 days ago. You have to do the same thing for React DOM. Fortunately, these versions follow each other. So if you select a React version, for example, this, you will have a React DOM with the exact same version number and hash. So once you have those, just copy those version numbers and go back to your StackBlitz and update your package.json. So here where you have the versions, just paste these, hit save, and rerun the last command from your terminal, or just type manually npm install and then npm run dev. Okay, and now you have this Canary version of React running, which has all the new features. So I've already prepared a StackBlitz for you that has examples for all these hooks that we are going to look at today. Okay, so let's switch to that. And here's the first hook I wanted to present you, that is useFormStatus. So this hook returns a bunch of other things, but I found pending the most practical. So the pending flag alternates between true and false depending on whether your form submission is in progress or not, while leaving the form interactive. So let's try this. I can click into all these inputs. I can type here something, for example, Ákos, and here my password, and click submit. So I can still click into these fields, but you saw for a second the submitting text appear. And that was made possible by this pending flag here. So while this flag was true, I set the button text to submitting, and when it became false, I set it to submit. Okay, let me switch to another example, that is the sign in. So you won't notice much difference between these two, except that I'm using in the sign in example a new hook called useFormState. Let's compare it with add.tsx. So it's almost identical. I have the same submit button here, And the only difference is that now I'm using here a different form action, a form action that comes from the use form state hook. So the difference between this hook and the hook that we used earlier is that this hook is capable of returning the response that we got from the server. So let's look at what sign-in does. Sign-in is a server action that also, after some timeout, responds with this message, login failed, and with some keys. I also modified the DOM, and right below the submit button, I'm looking at response, and if there is one, I'm taking a message of it and just printing it into the DOM. Let's see what happens when we type here a username and a password. So we will see the same flip between the texts submit and submitting on the button because we still use the useForm status hook, but we'll also have the response from the server action printed right below the submit button. Also, before you click submit, you will have to go to main and replace this app with sign-in, because that's how I put all these examples into the same application. So, okay, fill out the form once again and now click submit. So you were seeing the loading text, the submitting ... and after that disappeared, we got the login failed message. That's essentially the response of our server action here. The response from the server action can be any kind of object or just a simple string. It really depends on how your front-end code is structured and what other things you may want to display to the user here. Okay, let's look at the third hook. That's the use optimistic. So just go back to main and switch the example. The UI still looks the same, but we made some new changes to this application. We still have the alternating text between submitting and submit. The form looks a bit different. So imagine this use optimistic hook as a way to respond to your UI as if the server action has already finished and it had the best possible outcome. So in case of this simple login form, let's say this is a login to a user dashboard. If I type here my username and my password, I could print here a message like loading your dashboard, assuming that the user typed in the correct username and password. So after clicking submit, the text will change to submitting as before, but you will also see a message loading your dashboard below the submit button. And that is our optimistic message we show to the user. So there was the text loading your dashboard, and after we switch to the actual response we got from the server. So let's look at the implementation for this. Compared to the simple sign-in, where the useForm state simply called the sign-in server action, in sign-in optimistic, this action calls an intermediary function form action. It uses add optimistic message to append a message to the list of messages we display on our form before it calls the actual server action. Once we have a response from the server action, we will replace the optimistic message with that. And these were the three most interesting hooks that I found in the preview version of React 19. If you enjoyed the video, learned something new, please give it a like. If you have questions regarding React, hooks, StackBlitz, anything, just leave a comment below. I will be more than happy to answer them. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye.